I just think like comics are crybabies, and like give me a break. You get up there and you talk for an hour, and then they have an impulse to be heard too. You know what I mean? This is if it's rock and roll, well, who cares what they think about it? And truly, like political correctness with young people, for me, it's an overcorrection for a serious problem like bigotry and racism. And yeah, they've swung the other way, and yeah, they're a little irony deaf. But I'll take like an irony deaf, tolerant crowd over a racist crowd that really understands the workings of comedy and irony. I mean, if it infringes on free speech and all that stuff, I'm against it. And I'm totally against them even in theory. Yes, of course they shouldn't be. Of course they should get this. I've had jokes that I thought were taken as the very thing they were satirizing. You know, like were seen as racist when it was meant to be the exact opposite of that. But you know, that's part of the gamble of what performing is. It's meant to be interpreted in any way it can. And I don't know, I'm just like, you know, my mother's a hospice nurse, so it's hard for me to look at, you know, a couple college kids with signs outside a comedy show and think that I'm, you know, up against anything structurally. And yeah, sometimes I think the pendulum has swung the other way, a little too far from whatever, but it's a good direction, you know, and it'll correct itself in the middle. But no comedians are being, you know, thrown in jail. They're getting like lit up on Twitter maybe a few times. They go through, you know, and that's wrong and maybe bad sometimes. But again, this is from people who have had their opinions heard relentlessly, hours every night, all the time. And then a blogger gets up and expresses their opinion in a blog, and it's like, what? I mean, I don't understand it. It makes. No, how do you not understand that the audience has the same impulse that you do?
Yeah, so I think a lot about, you know, people on the left and where we're at with the internet especially, and this sort of like culture of tearing people down who are agreeing with us. I'm from Georgia, so I know a lot of people that don't agree with me. And I just wonder, you know, earlier you were talking about sort of like looking back and apologizing for what you had done before. And I wonder what your thoughts are on how we can do that collectively, because there has to be this sort of feeling and understanding. We have to understand that.
No, it's a great question. It's just too good.
They all agree, they're just nervous. It's big.
Yeah, that's all. Yes.
I contend that all people are racist and sexist and fucked up, and like we all sort of internalize these things because we live in this society. So how do we acknowledge that and hold people accountable without, you know, with the space to heal?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, like, the person to give this answer is really not me. Like, no, truly. Because, like, the conversation that's happening right now that I do agree with is that there is at once a shared experience and also a specific experience that people with my specific experience demographically tend to speak with a lot of authority in the moment, and maybe they shouldn't so often, but here I am in the lights. I do believe that the most significant things, or some of the most significant things, are shared. Love, grief, family, pain. What I don't want to do is and again, this is what I don't want. I'm like, please see this as like open. I'm not really addressing necessarily just you, but anyone that could interpret an answer as wrong. It's also, it's crazy the amount of subordinate phrases you need to put before a statement nowadays. But that might be right. That might be right because the culture's on fire. I get it. I really do get it. I'm saying, like, the worst fucking thing happened in the world 18 months ago that set the country on fire. So I get that we went, like, we need to, like, tear our culture down and look at every piece of it and go, how the fuck did it add up to this? So I do really get it. And, like, the friendly fire is not at all equivalent to the war that was started. At all. At all. Like, we're gonna actually say that, like, that fuckface that, I shouldn't be saying this stuff, but, like, that psycho is equivalent to, like, some clunky college students that are, like, saying their opinion a little too loudly. Like, those are equivalent things, is absolutely bonkers. But I will say that, like, what I don't want, what I, like,
what I seek out in art, I'm just gonna keep it to art for me, for my sake. I personally connect so much with pieces of art and things that I don't demographically align with. That is a really powerful experience for me, and like a huge engine for empathy and change. And it's beautiful to see myself in someone that on the surface is nothing like me, which is something like this story. You know, and I don't want that to go. I don't want the belief to be that we can never understand each other. We just, there of course are certain circumstances and life experiences that cannot be understood, and we need to listen to each other. And specific groups need to step back and listen to other groups. But of course there's a shared humanity that we can all talk about, right? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like we all have parents that are like dying. We all, we're all trying to love each other. We're all like hearts in chests and brains in heads. So that is, I don't know though. It's crazy. It's crazy times, but I get it. I get why it's crazy. When the shit happened, November 2016, I was like, it's over. It's over. And what you might be seeing is like, it's over. But you know, like we have to tear down everything. We have to I was literally thinking like, okay, all the shows are canceled. Like, there's no way I'm gonna see another fucking talk show again in my life, let alone I saw twice as many. You know, so like, there's way less culture tearing down than I expected. I think people are being very well behaved for what is actually happening.
It's just that when there's retribution on Twitter, it can be a tidal wave.
Totally, absolutely, yeah. That's its own thing, and that's horrific. And when someone tweets a little joke that's misunderstood and their life is ruined, and they get fired from their job, that's awful. But that is not PCness to me. That is internet being unrestrained and anonymous and horrifying and violent and quick and too many people at once. I think those two things are conflated a little too often. I'm saying because the PCness that I really see railed against is just college kids figuring out how to think and maybe being a little too protective of certain things, which is like, well, that's what college is for, I think.
I think in your question there's something about decency where people are being held accountable to certain standards of decency when they subscribe to them, and just the fact that he's still fucking president is proof of that, right? So on a lighter note,
right now we're getting caught in people just going hypocrite, 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 hypocrite. You know what I mean? That's what's happening right now. Is that like we forgot where everyone's just calling each other hypocrites, which is, but like it's Donald Trump. Are we forgetting that like? I'll never get over that. I'll never get over that it's Donald Trump. I'm like, even the people, I'm like, yeah, I get it, like snowflakes and you don't like her and Hillary. It's Donald Trump. Like you're on board with Donald Trump. No, I'll take those arguments. Okay, yeah, maybe that should be less. It's Donald Trump. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I blame comedy for 80% of it. I do. Swear to God. Swear to God. He learned everything he needed to learn at the Comedy Central roast. It's not a joke. Learned everything. Everything. It's funny.